Hello everyone, welcome you all. This is Suresh from SDET Automation channel. Today in this session I am going to discuss about the requirement related session which will be helpful for the freshers guy who is trying to make his career into automation testing. So when it comes to the automation testing, we have certain things that needed for automation tester. So we'll discuss those points, and please do watch this entire session so that you will understand each and every requirement related to the automation tester, and also you can easily prepare for interviews and crack the interviews. So without wasting your time, let's get started. So this session is majorly focusing on the parameters of requirements for the freshers guy. So the first and foremost thing that a person who is preparing for automation testing, they need to follow some certain things considering the manual testing and also the automation testing. So whenever any company hires an automation tester, they not only hire the automation related person, but they need a manual person as well who can provide some time or a percentage like 30% on manual testing and 70% automation, and some organization may take 50% manual testing and 50% automation testing. So we'll see the manual testing requirements, what all things that required. So basic knowledge of web applications. So if you know how the web application works and you know how interactions going into the web application, so if you know this basic information, that's well and fine. And some black box testing techniques. So under black box testing techniques, you have different functional testings and types of functional testing like boundary value analysis, equivalent value analysis, state transition, and certain guidelines you have in that black box testing, and you need to know that as well. And some basic SQLs. So why SQL? So whenever you are working with any web application, you order something or you store something or you prepare a user information or do a payload. So all this information will store into the database. You need to see whether the data which is you have given in the website are really going into the web database or not. So for that you need some basic queries. So generally QA guy majorly focusing on the structure queries, rather he do some manipulation like creating, modifying, all these things. He cannot only certain things he can do, but majorly focusing on the structure queries. And next thing is the test case and defect logging. So this is the most required for any automation tester or manual tester who is making his career. So writing a test case without knowing how application work, you cannot start with anything, right? So you have to understand how the application works and what are the steps you need to follow, the precondition, post condition, all these things will be captured in the test case document and the defects. So whenever you see any deviation, error or issue, you log a defect. So you need to understand these two criteria. So in this entire QA concept, this is a major one you have to focus on. And I have prepared some sessions on these things. I will share those in the description box. You can find from there. And next is the standard SDLC model. And why the SDLC? Because whenever you are working with the development team, so software development life cycle, you need to understand certain models. So for say, I have mentioned here the waterfall model, but we have many models like V model, spiral model, and agile process currently. So knowing the waterfall model is well and good. And if you know the waterfall model, what are the things that you have from requirement phase to the maintenance phase, all the phases which are covered in the waterfall model are there in each and every model, and you have to follow some SDLC model. So whenever you are working in the testing area, you have to understand some standard like standard testing life cycles. So you have to follow some certain rules and regulations in that. So these are the things that needed in the manual concept. And when it comes to the technical skills, so any automation tester who is making his career, he has to know any one language. Not everything he has to know. He has to know a certain coding languages like Java, C#, Python, Ruby, and whichever language he is familiar. And in that language he has to know some syntax, some access modifiers, like how they interact within the coding language. So we have to understand those. And oops concept is the major thing that we use across automation. So if you know the oops concept, that's well and good, and no need to master in any language. You have to know these simple concepts to start your career into automation. And some basic collection concept, not every concept you use, but only certain concept like array list, linked list. So these kind of things you use, like hash map. So maps concept you will use. And I have mentioned here Selenium knowledge, not specifically that you need to work on Selenium. We have a number of variety of tools available across the market, like Quick Text Professionals, you have a Tosca, you have a RPA, you have a number of tools, but most of the persons or most of the companies use this Selenium. So major usage is Selenium. So that's the reason I have mentioned here. And under that Selenium you have different components like IDE, RC, WebDriver, and you have a grid too. So grid concept is not easy one to implement, but you need certain experience in this WebDriver so that you can implement that. For basic QA fresher, these are the things that needed. And Selenium also you have to know the syntax and the commands with Selenium. And if you know how to record and playback, is a good advantage to understand the entire Selenium, because in IDE it provides you a feature to record entire browser and you can play back again, so that you can see how automation picks up each and every locator and do operation on that. And you need an API working experience, like basic experience, not in depth. You have to know what is API, how API works, and what are the input you need to provide and what are the outputs you need to see. Because whenever you are working in a application which is designing from the scratch, the first and foremost things are APIs. So if you know the APIs behavior, then you can start working on application, and later on eventually you do the functional testing like QA concepts, and then after you do the automation like tech aspects. So these are the things that you need from the manual side on automation side. So these are the major focused area, and in addition to this we have certain more things. Like whenever you're taking any interview, interviewer may expect something more from you, so that he can understand that you are very much familiar in the QA concept and you are strong in all the areas of testing, like understanding test plan. So test plan majorly deals by senior QA or a lead QA who can work on test plan. But if you know what all things that is required in the test plan, that is well and good. And as I said, like we have a different SDLC process. If you know the agile process, that is also added advantage for you. And some certifications I have mentioned, ISTQB certification and Java certification is for example, not specifically you have to do this, but as a tester you have to make sure that you have ISTQB certification, which is offered from the ITB Indian Testing Board. And any programming knowledge, it's not necessarily required that you have to get the certification. Rather you do the certification, you understand the concept of coding language, how you implement them, and learning with the real-time examples, and do some more and more examples of coding from hackathons and everything you can do from there. And any testing training certification is also added advantage. And in addition to this, I will tell you one more concept which is plays major role. Even though you have more or less in these areas, if you have that skills with you, you can easily crack any interview. That is the communication skills. So why I am mentioning the communication skills? Because QA is a person who will interact with developers, business owners, and product owners, and even managers. Because QA is a person who will approve the application to go live. So he has to understand the requirements, he has to get the knowledge from the product owner, and he have to interact with the developers. So you have to provide the demos. So all these things QA need to provide. So having a good communication skills is also a big plus point for any fresher automation guy. And one more thing is understanding the different accent. So why I'm providing the different accent, because people from different countries may speak in different accents, so you have to understand that accent, because few people may speak little slow, few people may speak little faster with different accent. You need to catch that accent and you need to provide a response to that. And you need to understand email writing. So email writing is one more point where QA guy will respond to different persons. As I told, he has to respond in a polite manner with a proper justification to what the question being asked. So you have to know good email writing skills as well here. And eventually you have to have a good listening, understanding and speaking skills. So these are the things that he required, because he is the one who is approving the application or approving the functionality, approving the defect which is being fixed, and he need to communicate accordingly to the business people. So these are the things that are required for any fresher automation guy. And more or less, if you go for any automation testing interview for a fresher guy, these are the areas they will touch. I hope I have covered all the things that are needed for a fresher guy for automation testing. And in case if the session is helpful for you, do provide a like and share with your friends so that they can be benefit out of it. And do share your feedback and comments in my comment section. Thank you for watching.